Yeah, cheers, gentlemen. Thank you for coming. This means a lot to me. I hope you enjoy the meal that I set up for you guys. Something I've had planned for a long time. Got my man Rocco, Ryan, got my main man, my best friend Paul, and Schoolboy right here. Um, all intelligent gentlemen. We're just gonna sit and have a conversation while we eat, and the show's gonna be called Dinner and Debates. We're just gonna talk about a few issues that we don't hear a lot about in our communities, and hopefully enlighten some people. So raise your glasses, gentlemen. And first episode of Dinner and Debates. As Paul can attest to, for years, man, people have been telling me I'm a little crazy. I lived with him for a year and we had great conversations, and that's kind of what sparked this. You know, being a bartender, I get to meet a lot of different people. And one of my customers came in, and it happened a lot of times, but I just kind of brushed it off. But one of my customers recently came in, an older gentleman and his wife, and they were talking about how they've been hearing younger men treat women and talk about women. And he was like, I can't believe it, in my day, you know, you hear that, you know, get off my lawn, that guy. So I looked at him and I was like, where did they get the information that shows them how to treat a woman in the proper way? And it's like I punched him in the face, because he was the most talkative, intelligent dude until I hit him with the question. Like, I was like, because I would like to be able to send my son, who's 7, to be able to see those things when I'm not showing him myself. And he looked at me. I was like, where did they get the positive information about how to treat women? And so I started to really think, and this is the basis of the topic for today, is, are human minds set up just the same way as computers and the way they're programmed? And the reason I say that is because if I asked these guys right now to tell me everything they know about rocket science, I'm pretty sure for most of you, I don't know about you, it would be limited information.
Come on, man. Selling me short.
Huh?
No.
Oh, excuse me. Elaborate. So, my whole point is to say is that I picked you guys because you're all intelligent in the different fields and in the way your brain works. But none of you can tell me in depth about rocket science, not because you're stupid, because you haven't taken the time to program that into your DNA. Just like with my computer, I'm writing a book, but if I don't get Microsoft Office and Word, I won't be able to type anything until I put that into my computer's DNA so I can go in there and start typing. That's the same thing that I feel as adults, and the generation before us, somehow they've lost the fact that they're being programmed. So the programming that they're giving to the lower generation, they're now mad at what's being produced. But I can't get anything out of my computer that I don't put in my computer.
I'm still caught up. I want to talk about rocket science now.
I don't know.
I think he underestimates you Googleizing.
No, but I mean, just on the topic of programming, being with someone that's from outside of this country, you get a different lens. So the other day we were just even looking at a calendar on her iPad, and well, actually it's my iPad, and it had starts the week with Sunday. I thought, that was exactly the norm everywhere in the world. But it turns out that most of the world, other countries other than the US, all start their week on Monday. And so that kind of blew my mind, and that's also to attest to the fact that, to a certain degree, I would subscribe to the fact that certain things are programmed in you depending on where you're from, what kind of stimuli you've gotten, the people around you. So that's just one example, kind of to the point and to the topic.
So you would agree then?
To a certain extent, I think in general you have to seek your own understanding of a lot of different things. You can't just go with the status quo. That's how you literally lose yourself and get caught in the matrix, because you're only accepting information from outside and you're not investigating yourself.
See, but I believe the reason you were able to say what you just said is because of your previous programming to allow you to think outside of the box. Many people have not traveled like you have traveled. They haven't even seen outside of their city, state, let alone a whole nother culture, you feel me? Let alone to be in a relationship with somebody from a whole nother culture, you feel me? So when you started talking, you don't even realize how great your programming is to help you to become what you are now. Because if you got what other people had, you wouldn't be speaking the way you're speaking. That's what I believe.
Well, yeah, and I do agree with that, obviously. My experiences have given me a different take on life, but again, there are a lot of people I've met, i.e. people at this table, who, have had different experiences and have seen different things, but at the end of the day, it is part of who you've had contact with. But I think in general, people need to take ownership of what they allow in themselves. You know what I mean?
That's a golden nugget.
And so, regardless of kind of, the stimuli that you get, as adults, again, throwing that out there, people owe it to themselves to kind of, step away from the status quo and be able to literally think for themselves and see both sides. And I think that's what's, again, in society right now, people are just so polarized because they can't put themselves in other people's shoes. Not to say that they're, anyways, yeah.
I think gentlemen, anybody want to step in?
Did you know that computer programming Sunday is number one in all of computer programming? Just throw that out there. That's preload into what I might go into later.
Okay.
You're talking about the human mind being programmed.
Okay.
Sunday is number one. Only here in America is Monday the first day. It's almost the only place that I've ever seen as well. But even in code, my first business day is Sunday. So you kind of skip number one here in America.
Oh, okay.
I feel like it's not what we're being programmed to think, it's what we're not being programmed to actually think. Like, we're missing stuff, like we're not being told everything. You can't have the entire story unless you're doing that. So if they're programming us, they're giving us half the knowledge but selling it to us.
But that is the program.
Like a sale. It's
that
just
is the
sale.
program.
Yeah, but so the whole thing, what we should be, I think, thinking about is what we're not getting. It's like we have to figure out the other 50%, the other 80%. We have no idea how much that we're missing. It's like if you don't teach a kid how to do taxes in school, how can you expect them just to get out and get a job and already be broke and try to be living their life and then not know how to do that one thing, that one step that just costs a little more money if you don't do it right. And just having, just the entire thing is just pinned against not knowing and not being taught. And if they are, like, yes, we are programmed, so if you teach me how to do karate, I know karate. If you don't teach me how to, then I don't know it. So what are we not focusing on?
That's simple.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand why we even have this debate.
I mean, that's
the only reason why I'm saying that is because, yeah, we are programmed.
I'm glad.
For everything that what we do in life. I mean,
well, remember the second part remember the second part of the question is, if we had to figure out, Or do we believe we're programmed? Because there are people that I'll talk to that'll tell me I'm crazy. Like, what are you talking about? Man, I get it. But what I'm trying to get to your point, what you just brought up, is why are we even talking about this if it's exactly obvious, right?
So obvious.
Now, you tell me the next answer then. What are we being programmed to do?
I don't know what y'all being programmed for, but I'm not programmed the same way you guys are. I got a different mindset of what these rules is, what the rules of the world is.
Okay, hold on. Sorry to interrupt. Elaborate on both, okay? What are others being programmed for, and how are you being that you described? And yeah, so because you see both, because I'm your dude. So
I mean that's then we talking about a religion. You talking about a faith.
Tell it how you want to tell it. It's you. So I want to make sure that you break it down because everybody's not Paul.
Both views, the world and the non-world. And the non-world people, I mean like people with faith, people that really believe in a higher power, people that really believe that Jesus is coming back. Like those type of people have a different mindset than what we see as the world being programmed to believe in what life should be about. Which, you know, it's a weird thing to be around as much.
No,
because I see it in my perspective a lot different than what you would, and I really feel this way because I got like evidence, but people don't want to understand what the evidence is because science has changed a lot of things, and it made people not really have faith anymore because I can be showing you this magical thing and you don't believe it.
See, but pause. This is why I asked that old man that was talking to me at the bar, where do I get those images of what you're talking about? Where are the images of the higher power? For every one Jesus movie or positive movie that comes out, there's 56 killing, mayhem, criminal minds, whatever the case may be. So they can't even get to where you are because you were giving a different program to begin to allow your mind to even start to wonder differently. So that's what they figured out. It's like, that's why back in the day they didn't want black people to read, because it opened your mind to then become more than what you were.
So are you equating values to programming?
That's what they figured out. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They have figured out, whoever you believe is programming has figured out how to program you to then interfere or persuade your value system to then change your actions based on that. And we'll get to that, and some people, like my man, we talked about that, so he knows why I'm not elaborating. I don't want to give him too much yet, because this is already a lot of content to digest right here. I believe, and I'll explain later, that there's a reason why we're being programmed. And I want to know what everybody else's thought process is as this first time as to what you guys think the reasoning is. And first, I didn't even know if everybody would believe. I didn't think it would be this simple that everybody would, hey, we are programmed. But it's a lot more obvious than I thought, because maybe next time I need to pick some people that I think are unaware.
The word programming doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, word. Break down.
I mean, simply just because, again, that's why I say if you equate it to values, like your parents instill in you, right, or the traits that you get from them are values.
Wait, no, that is programming. What are you talking about? Instilling.
And the same thing could be indoctrination.
When you say instill, I can just change the word to install. You say instill, I can say install. When I put it in the computer, I'm installing. When they put it in you, they're instilling. What's the difference?
Okay, so
it's going in you.
Yes, but it's also being it's also being read into you.
Yeah, but
data is coming.
I get that, but that's what the computer is doing. What are you
but
talking about? I have
not.
to hit download. It asks me, "Do you want me to put this in my computer?" It asks me every time, and I hit yes.
Let me finish. So the reason that programming does not sit well with me is because it has a negative connotation, and that's why again.
No, you can have good programming.
Okay.
You can have it.
Just make it. I mean, I don't know where
If I
goes,
download a virus into my computer, that's f***ing bad programming. It's not gonna.
We wouldn't be having this conversation if it was all good programming.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
But the reason I chose, and again, most of all of these people that you see here are my friends. And the reason I choose the friends that I choose is because I noticed the programming that you guys have. And if you don't have the correct programming, you're not going to be friends with me. Because I don't want to deal with dumb programming.
It's also not just programming, it's actually taking what you're given and finding a real world answer for yourself. If you don't
Everybody
find yourself,
can't do that.
it's called waking up, it's called whatever, red pill, blue pill, matrix, it's
because
whatever,
we're not just here because
of
of the programming that we got.
But
the programming took us to a certain. I'm sure everyone in here has.
I'm so glad.
In a sticky ass situation that your programming did not prepare you for at all. And you know what? We're here right now, so it's not just programming.
Well, let me rebut that, and I might be wrong. Now, just because I install Microsoft Office and Word into my computer doesn't mean I'm gonna write. Just means I have it installed in me.
Well,
but at least it gives you the opportunity to delve into that realm when you need to. So you may believe...
But it wasn't dormant programming. It was something that, again, what I said...
That is dormant programming.
No. What you have installed is here. After that, there's an evolution. There's an evolution, and there are things that you program, I guess, yourself.
You have to do. Yes, but if you didn't even know there was the option to do that, if you didn't even know because you've never read, you see what I'm saying?
But everyone has the capability to program anything. You can sit there and build bad habits on your own, and that's your programming. Or you can sit there and be someone that's driven, and that's your programming. Up to a certain point, you know what I mean? It's that thing.
So what you believe is that your parents and your environment
takes you up to a certain point.
But it does take you to a certain point.
Oh no, absolutely.
Just because your parents taught you that doesn't mean that your parents took the program and did something right with it. Just because we keep continuing the process doesn't mean anyone learned anything.
Exactly.
So we have to keep it.
You have to then go and again, if we're talking about the evolution of a person, you're with your folks to a certain point, and what they instill in you or the rules that they give you, fine. After that, you have to go learn yourself. Okay. And what they instill in you up until that point does not necessarily take you throughout the rest of your life, because you're still an adolescent, and you have, again, it goes back to what I said, everyone here has gotten into a sticky situation that your own devices got you out of. Not the programming that your folks got.
So you believe that it's not the programming that we...
No, I'm saying it's part of the values that you get, but then after that, again, it's taking ownership in how you
I guess
develop.
my question, and then I want to pass it, what are we being programmed for then? If you're saying that it is the how are we being programmed then?
We're being programmed for nothing.
Okay, Schoolboy, go ahead, please.
Currently in AI right now, what's the one main goal that humans are trying to achieve? What are they trying to do?
They're trying to get robots to do the stuff that they don't want to do and make life easier for themselves?
Not necessarily. The number one goal is free thought. The number two goal is enough variation so that there are enough individual free thoughts that it actually creates almost a human-like society. Those are the two main goals in all of AI right now. What you guys are talking about programming, that's what humans have almost kind of achieved. You're talking about the programming that almost all binds us back together. You're talking about the programming that creates, the human species. I thought you were talking about that kind of programming. That maybe something else is even higher than this little surface level of society is actually programming us.
Oh yeah,
Because right now,
I've heard that. And that's
human beings are trying to program a human society. And those are the two main goals: free thought and enough variation with those free thoughts. It creates enough unique characteristics to create a unique society.
So that's what you have. So
So
that's God.
it is, but
In that perspective.
right.
So they're trying
But
to
it's
find
gonna
that
be-
computer,
yeah,
so they're not
really-
trying to teach us
if you
everything
have,
we
like,
need
the
to know to
mindset-
be the most loving,
technically, I
peaceful,
could-
To correct that,
technologically
I could create
evolved
this right now
society
if
that
I
we
had
possibly
enough-
could be. So
if
they're
I had
trying to
enough
find it in
CPU
people that don't have the
could be a
capability
God.
of love on an
Because you
everyday
create-
basis. They try to put it in the computer.
But are you?
Yeah, you
Because
just
something
keep
else
it, you
is
just
starting
leave it
to
stay wide open.
I mean, I don't.
Because,
What else are we supposed to talk about?
It's got to be. Let's get to that part.
I'm so glad I did this. I'm just gonna sit back,
But that's not-
man.
I'm
That's
sorry,
not
I'm
you know, for anyone.
Holy snap! Oh my
Anyone who
goodness.
actually wants it, they want it to the
snap.
military or some other shit.
He wasn't ready,
They're blowing
was he?
shit the fuck.
No, I mean,
That's why I'm so. Thank you for telling me. I appreciate it. I knew what I was doing.
But that's what I thought when you said programming. You know, that's where I was going in my mind.
yeah, I've heard of that, and that a lot of the forward thinkers, Elon Musk and alike, really do believe that there's a possibility that all of us are just a computer program. And that's, again, I've never heard what he just said, which is pretty wild. If that's what we're
That's what he
trying
does
to-
for a living, man.
If that's what we're trying to attain, like literally, if that's
Look at
the
it.
path of and the funny thing is, and even talking about that, there was, I don't remember how many years ago I saw this map out of technology and what's going to be upcoming in like X amount of years. You know what I mean? It was this kind of like chart, wireless charging. This was years ago. You know what I mean? And now we have it. So it's like talking about a plan, and if we're really trying to attain creating another like duplicate society made by us, I mean, how far-fetched is that to believe that? I'm just saying, to believe that, I mean, that's us, right? Someone else did the same thing, and it's just replicating that cycle.
We're finally getting this called QWERTY. QWERTY is it's actually like a quantum
Sorry, say
process.
it again. Like say it again.
QWERTY, QWERTY.
Okay.
It's a
Quartine.
QWERTY.
QWERTY.
It's a
QWERTY. Okay.
It's quantum processing. There are places in Columbus now that can do 3 times QWERTY, which is very impressive. Once upon a time, that was unheard of. Nobody thought we'd get there. There's places right now where they don't care about blowing up, like Sweden, places like that. They're going towards 8 times, which is basically, if you imagine like your home PC on nuclear fusion, you know, but it's insane. The speed and the processing speeds that we can hit now. 3 times QWERTY means I can code whatever I want, because whatever I can do can keep up with my code. I write code that stretches, basically one line of code will stretch in small print all the way from that corner all the way down to that corner.
For everybody that doesn't know,
That's just one algorithm.
What is code?
Code is it's basically what runs the software behind the scenes. The thing, what you don't see, what's not on the screen, that's not asking you to click it or input something.
Okay.
It's running, your next set questions or the output that happens.
Okay.
If you're running around with Red Dead, you shoot the coyote. Coyote follows you, going, you skin the coyote, throw it on the horse, whatever it is. That's all code behind. What you see is not code. It's the result.
Okay.
But right now,
It's funny that you
we're
said
a new process, and that's the interesting part about coding. It's not that the human mind wasn't already smart enough. There's no way to do it.
So it's funny what you just broke down, and we'll close shortly. But so you are one of the people responsible for putting in the code. Technically, let's say the game that you were just talking about with shooting the coyote and blah blah blah. So if we are in agreement to a certain extent that we're being programmed. We're not all saying that we're being programmed for the same thing, but we all believe that we're being programmed. So then there has to be somebody putting in the code, correct?
Correct, but true programming means that no one can tell there's code there.
Isn't it? Oh, wow. Yeah, I think we're gonna slow down. unless y'all try to chill for another 30 minutes, we might go ahead and chill on that one right there. But man, this was awesome, and I appreciate all of you coming out and helping us, bring some light to the world and have people thinking a different spectrum, man. If any of you watching this, like, share it. If you're trying to think differently, open your mind, try to listen to the same spew. This is Dinner and Debates. I'll be your host, New. And, we just want to spread light in the world. So I really appreciate you guys. Perfect timing.
My bad.
Right before screaming.
Right.
I was like, perfect. Hey, man, you're like a fucking golden nugget machine. Like, it's just like...